Yeah, this is actually one of the important takeaways here. We talked about how significant the recent patch can be to the meta, and how that could potentially help upsets happen. But this is exactly the direct opposite.
Yeah.
This is a perfectly established matchup that has been played millions of times, and you kind of know what to expect over here, at least to a certain extent, unless either of these players does something cheesy, which, it might always be something to consider, especially for someone like GiveUAnxiety, who probably goes into the series being the underdog.
Yeah, and that's always something to look out for. Those kind of strats, sometimes they pull off and they could work, I think we've seen players at this kind of level get away with stuff like that from time to time. I don't expect that said, though. I still expect it to be played out fairly standard here. And, I think while this is a Abbasid favored matchup for sure, puppypaw could easily just as much win this too. And here we go, diving in. Let's see, looking at the map, we are currently looking now at GiveUA in the purple here, up in the northeast as Abbasid, of course. And down in the southwest, we're going to have puppypaw in blue as the French.
Blue versus purple, that's not the best color picks in whichever case, but it is what it is. So indeed, a very much established and classic matchup over here. And really, in a way, a lot is going to come down to how GiveUAnxiety is going to approach this set and this match as a whole. He's the underdog, but this is a Civilization matchup that he should be reasonably happy with, especially when he looks at that gold distribution for puppypaw. There's a very clear-cut angle from which he can cut off both gold mines as well as the main beer pack.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. And it's going to come down to if he does play that 2TC game, where's that TC going to be? Can he defend it, right? That's going to be kind of the crux of this. But yeah, those two golds on the side, something you could press. That could be an advantage. And he's got those two wood lines up in the front, too, for GiveUA. That could help either defend. It also could be kind of a double-edged sword where if both get aggressed at the same time, you might end up not liking that as much. But I think that one to the side, we'll see how it plans out.
That little face that GiveUA made, I don't know what happened there, but it was like, eh.
Did he miss out on a sheep or something? He must. I think I see the scouts on the mini-map. I think he must have missed out on a sheep from puppypaw. He must have just eked one out.
Or maybe it's just an overall assessment of the situation, but I think that's one of the cool things that you have in a LAN environment, like being able to essentially see the instant response of the players to certain things happening.
And there we go. It looks like puppypaw, definitely a man after my heart, has the most sheep. You can say he has some extra sheep. GiveUA. With the
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I see what I did there. It's easy to do a little self-plug. Yeah, I'm sure GiveUA is probably like, because with French, you want to get as many sheep away from them as you can. And you want that in any matchup, but French especially, when they do pump out a lot of knights and want to play a feudal game, you want to make them run out of food at home, so they have to go out and you can go raid those outside resources.
And it's going to be a culture ring opening here for GiveUAnxiety, which is probably the lesser used ways to age up the feudal, especially against French. Most of the times you see that military wing pop out and just leveraging that pair of spearmen and archers that you're getting, and that basically is your answer to an early night opening. I'm curious how GiveUA is going to approach this, though, with the culture wing. Makes me feel like he may want to go either early horseman, although right now he's shifting villagers to stone, so maybe it's just a nice and comfy 2TC build. The concern I feel like for him here is that if the knights appear and he's got no spearmen whatsoever, he's going to be very limited in the possible positions where he can place that TC at.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, with Culture Wing, later on, he does get that new tech, I believe, available to him to make his villagers a lot tankier, a lot more health. I don't know how much it's going to play into this game. I've seen some fun memes showing how much health they can have. But as we see, even more villagers from the gold heading over to the stone. Just enough gold to get the upgrades they need. And he's building another house, getting ready. And again, we're just kind of waiting to see where's that TC going to go.
Yeah, this is critical timing. If he doesn't have the stone he needs by the time the first night arrives, this game is virtually over for him.
It's risky. But maybe with this too, he's going to be able to enable himself probably to get up to Castle Age faster as well. So maybe with the Culture Wing, he just gets cheaper techs. So we see a lot of deer. Wow, we see not one, but two herds. And
that's
extra sheep down there
dream
as well.
spot.
Yeah, that is a beautiful spot, but it's out in the open.
Yeah, and there's no way you're getting that DC up there. He's going to have the stone, but you see he's nowhere close to the amount of wood he needs, and this is why the Culture Wing is an interesting choice here in many ways. If you had those two spearmen from the military wing, you could have those defend the initial villagers. But now, how exactly are you going to protect those villagers?
And puppypaw right here, seeing every single bit about what we just saw, seeing the double deer, seeing the stone villagers, kind of getting a sense for the timing and how much stone he's already gathered and where he's at. And he's going to be looking to send knights, I'm sure, that way.
Yeah, you can actually see the little blue dot moving across the minimap. That's the first knight coming out, second one in queue. And you see, Soldier has gotten the stone he needs, but now he needs the wood. And at this point, this perfect spot to the south is going to be denied of him.
Yeah, and so I guess at that point, GiveUA is going to have to think, where else can he go? Where else can he go? What else can he do? And the gold's outside of the range of the TC. On Dry Arabia, it's always tricky with French being as aggressive as they are and being as mobile as they are. And we see GiveUA putting down the town center right next to the first. I don't even know if there's enough room to put a farm between them.
That's an okay spot in a way that it's guaranteed to go up, but what happened to the sheep there?
Oh no.
They have
sheep crimes, no! And he's taking the sheep down.
No, that is so bad.
That feels horrible. 3 sheep go down. I am devastated personally. Oh no, the 2 were already with the scout.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He brought those with to watch the desecration of their other kin.
This is so bad though, because I was about to say that the TC is safe, it's gonna go up. But what are you going to do when you don't have food?
He's going to have to go on the map, and there's nowhere safe. Those deer, he's going to be sitting on those all day.
The whole idea of the second TC expanding towards the food is that you deplete food very quickly, especially if you don't have a lot of sheep. As it's highlighted by the observers, some of the berries are outside the range of the town center. So you're somewhat limited there. You just lost a bunch of sheep, or at least they have been killed at a very uncomfortable position. And the whole setup feels like GiveUAnxiety is just being handcuffed so badly by just 1 or 2 knights.
Yeah, and then he's pulling up a barracks right now to try and get some spears. We see 1puppypaw currently getting a ton of eco upgrades. Going to go for a dive for the Vils right here. Will he get one? Double does hit. Both charges land, and there we have a dying Vil. First blood of the game and of the series. And if I'm GiveUA, man, you already know this is what you're signing up for in this matchup, but it feels rough knowing that you're in where you're at right now.
Yeah, this is just like, his position is so weird because now he's getting some production buildings going, but one thing that shouldn't be underestimated is how much information Puppy has. He sees no villagers on gold. He basically knows that his opponent doesn't have any upgrades, not even wheelbarrow, not even a lumberjacking upgrade. Whereas look at PuppyPaw. It's one thing that he's been making knights, but you also have to take a look at the fact that he's been getting basically all the eco upgrades going.
Well, and with just those 4 knights, or 3 knights really, or 4 knights or so, he's gotten a lot of value out of those. He hasn't had to put a lot of investment in for this. And we see spears now just getting upgraded into feudal age, so they are now a little tanky. You're able to maybe take care of at least a couple knights, at least enough to deter them from diving in. But some damage already done, and so now they're just going to start camping the gold, camping the deer, making sure that GiveUA has nowhere to run. He could maybe try and sneak out to the north, but that's, again, super duper risky.
Now, Spearman Horseman is a composition that's known to beat Archer Knight, but I feel like the constraint here for GiveUAnxiety is that he's just so limited on resources, and having to invest into farms early on is going to slow him down a lot.
Yeah, you never want to invest in farms any earlier than you have to. We'll see how many he puts down. And we have a little engagement here. Knights getting some charges off. Horseman just kind of running around trying to avoid them. Spears catching up, hoping to catch him off guard, and PuppyPaw has the reaction time to get out of there in time. And we see a wall coming up now as well from PuppyPaw. Worried about getting some counter raids, which is really smart for French. You know, you don't want to have your own eco damage. You want to make sure you're always on your opponents. And we see looking for a scout hit. It's going to be close. Spear should be able to save it, but again, the harassment and the pings that you're getting have got to be annoying for GiveUA.
And PuppyPaw, he's got no business in feudal age now. I think he's piling up resources for Castle. At least he was thinking about it for a moment. I think he keeps his options open. Because if he can get more kills like this, it makes sense to double down. If he stalls out, he can go Castle Age, get the Guild Hall, get the relics.
Yeah, and we have a knight in the back. Now, PuppyPaw is really good at this, as, again, all top players are. Splitting up the knights, poking in multiple places at once. You can't send spears everywhere, you know? You just won't have enough. We see right now GiveUA trying to chase down those horses, those knights. Unfortunately, spearmen just don't run that fast, and they're just going to chase them into oblivion. But still getting hit on the berries in the back. You know, and we mentioned the unsecure food. That knight does go down. It's a pretty good pickup for GiveUA, but is it enough, you know?
I think it speaks a lot that GiveUA has only 4 villagers of an advantage with 2 TC versus 1, and half of his villagers are idle for so long. And GiveUA knows what he needs to hit. He sees these hunters. In fact, he managed to kill a villager. There's a dead body out there.
Yep.
But then again, number one thing right now for him is that he needs to find a way to secure food quickly.
Yeah, and again, the knights, again, just relentlessly on those berries. They do not want those Vils there. Another one falls down. All things considered, I'm surprised he's only lost 3 Vils. And he's doing the right thing, again, trying to get some counter raids. That knight going to have to dip out of there. The archer's now coming out for puppypaw, and horsemen are going to need to come in to help support those spears. But right now, it's a pretty good-sized mass of spears just on the outskirts, but that tower gets up on time.
Oh, that is so weird. He wanted to move out. He's actually towering in front of that wood line, but I was about to say that the archers weren't back at home for puppypaw to defend, so they must be elsewhere. And because of that, this tower is not going up. And I feel like puppypaw knows so much. He sees how desperate his opponent is for food.
And this is the advantage of French. He's just got knights patrolling everywhere, and that knight getting away feels pretty bad. Now you've got a tower you've half invested in. They're going to go try and torch it down and make sure that investment doesn't ever come to fruition. Or they'll back off, you know, caster's curse. But now, I mean, here's GiveUA's option. If he can get enough spears and enough military mass, if he can just hold a little bit of food for a moment, puppypaw's going to see the tower, going to see what's up. But I think if he can hold this spot with the deer and just get a little bit of advantage of it, the eco numbers are starting to come in favor of GiveUA. He's up by 7 now. He's only lost 3 vills compared to... he's in a 3 vill deficit in deaths compared to what has happened. So he's not terribly far, but again, more pressure coming in.
Yeah, the one thing to credit GiveUAnxiety for is how effective he's been repelling these raids. Like, 5 villagers lost doesn't look great, but given the circumstances, it's actually reasonable. But he needs 2 more towers here. Because 1 tower, you garrison 5 vills, the knights will dive. His opponent has 9 knights. They will dive the vills, and you lose half of your eco. Yeah,
and that's definitely something he's got to look into here. Again, the berry vills, this time getting caught out. Doesn't get it 1. Oh, 7 HP, 1 hit away. And that's got to be so frustrating for GiveUA when you're doing the right thing, you're trying to defend as best you can, those knights are pesky, and then when they get away, we see Chivalry activating here. Those knights heal up when they go. Horseman goes down, spears aren't going to be able to do anything about it.
Love the walls. Absolutely beautiful walls here for GiveUA. Expensive, but so needed.
So necessary. And he's got the wood. That's the one access the thing he has is the wood line. That town center does protect it pretty well. All these knights looking to torch down the tower. They're not going to be able to do much there. They're going to have to look around. They're going to try and stop this wall, however. Spears aren't in place for this. Villagers going to have to run to the tower. But as you said, there's only 1 tower there, so if they dive this, there's going to be villagers down, and they're going to have to run, and then GiveUA now looking
It's
to build
the
another
archers.
one.
That's the problem here. Your spearmen repel the knights, but GiveUA only has 2 horsemen to deal with that many archers, and this tower is just so late.
Oh, and the charge comes in, losing some more vills. This feels pretty rough. And the surround, no, they're going to run past, but goodness, this is a destruction for GiveUA. He needs to get these guys out of his base. It feels like he just didn't quite have enough time to get things going. We see more villagers going down. The tower fire just isn't enough to compete with the archers. Spears falling. Now they're going to go to try and start torching down. And frankly, if you look at the military numbers, there's just not enough.
Yeah, again, when he moved out here, it felt like he needed 2 more towers. That would have been a little bit dicier for puppypaw to dive. But let's not forget, puppypaw barely lost any knights over here, and that's starting to show.
And the military for GiveUA's military just got cleaned up right there. They just melted under the fire. And now he has no military units whatsoever. Puppypaw's got free access to his entire economy.
It's way too much for GiveUA now. He's at 1 army and he's losing villagers. It really feels like there is just no way back in this. He's taking way too much beating.
Yeah, you're hemorrhaging vills. You've lost 16 now, 2 town centers, and you're actually down a villager now to puppypaw. And the rams start coming out. And if that doesn't spell doom soon, I don't know what does.
It's the fact that you don't have any army. Like, how are you going to deal with 13 knights, 20 archers as well, rams coming into when you have no troops?
I think this goes back to what you said about the military wing. If he'd had some military units to stop that initial knight, he maybe could have bought himself more time. Because when you're trying to go 2 town centers, you just need the time, and he doesn't have it. We see knights taking out even more of his units. He's never going to be able to mass up enough to stop this.
Yeah, I wonder what the math was behind that build, because maybe he felt like the timing is going to be there.
Oh, and he never even got anything out of it.
I mean, it's not like he's been getting a lot of text, let's just say that.
Yeah, and that's a big difference, too. Is puppypaw's got his ranged armor, he's got the ram built, he's got wheelbarrow. Everything's in favor of him right now. The only thing, I mean, GiveUA's got 2 extra villagers on him right now, but that's hardly a huge thing to write home about.
Yeah, it's just, it's looking grim. He's down in text, he is severely outnumbered in army, and he's still not accessing food. It's to his credit, it's a tough spawn with double deer packs, but in general, like the whole idea, like the whole condensed town center setup that he had, puppypaw knew fully well that food is going to be an issue, and it was.
Yeah, and he calls GG knowing there's just, like we said, no road back, you know. And this was a matchup that most people would say favors Abbasid, but I think maybe just a misplay on the Culture Wing. The spawn didn't really lean itself for it very well, and game 1 goes to puppypaw. And I'm sure GiveUA's probably kicking himself a little bit right now.
It's a tough one, because the matchup is there. But at the same time, part of this was the fact that the second TC just had to be so tight.
Yeah.
And, you know, we haven't really been keeping a very exact track of what happened sheep-wise. If you miss out on most of those sheep, then obviously you're just going to be forced to move out of your base.
Yeah.
Timings just didn't work out for him. And it's tough because Horseman Spearman will beat the Knight and Archer combination.
But you need the food.
You need the food for the Horseman, and he never had that.
It's kind of like a deli problem, right? Like, deli can produce a lot of stuff and be really effective in feudal, but if you chomp down on the food, they crumple. And same thing, I mean, in general, if you can tamp down on a resource that well, it just makes it really difficult. When we see the army value, the military value lead, I mean, it's rough. That's a rough one for GiveUA.
Yeah, he was able to pull ahead in terms of villagers. Like, one thing that he did really well was preserve the villager count. It's just one of those games where you had the vill count, but you simply wasn't able to do anything with it because you didn't really have the safe resources together. Here, if you're giving anxiety, I think one of the traps that you could fall into is applying pressure, but not applying enough pressure.
Yeah.
When you're constantly aggressing your opponent, but they're able to pull away in villager count and always get these little pockets of eco, that's where things can get dicey. And we've actually seen that in some of the previous games. Just looking at GiveUA's brother, Soldier, you can be pressured, but if you're allowed to sneak outside of your base and you retain your villager count, it's not going to be enough. So for GiveUA, he needs to dictate the tempo of that early game with the Jeanne d'Arc, and then I think he also needs to be on the more aggressive side of things when it comes to expanding the eco.
Yeah, definitely. Any thoughts on the map choice for this one?
Interesting. It is interesting, but let's just go into the game and let's discuss it there.
Alrighty. Here we are on Tempe. I like this map a lot. Lots of food available on the map. I think there's 4 boar, if I'm not mistaken, here on the map. And so that can play a big part. You mentioned those pocket ecos. I think that'll play a big part. We see standard stuff from Joan of Arc, as she's already built a house, built a mining camp, and is gathering some gold for the age up. 1puppypaw in blue. Again, blue-purple for those who are colorblind. I'm sorry. But same colors as last time. 1puppypaw in the northeast as China.
Now, here's the thing. GiveUA had Rus available, and on a map with 4 boars, they are no pushover. We actually had a previous Rus game today where the Rus player was able to get 1,200 bounty, that is 1,200 raw gold by minute 18. That's a steady 60, 70 gold per minute trickle for the entirety of the game, basically. Now, when you have 4 boars, that's an insane amount of bounty that you can leverage. At the same time, it crossed my mind that maybe that's the plan here with Jeanne d'Arc. Being able to pick up all that XP from the boars allows you to get a lot closer to the tier 3 Jeanne that GiveUA might be looking for.
I did not even consider the fact that the boar also give XP. So I didn't even consider that. Yeah, with the 4 boar, that could be a lot quicker to age up for her to get to those men-at-arms and get to age 3 for her. That's a big deal. You know, it's interesting because GiveUA has played on this map already today, and he did go with Rus, and he actually ignored the boar for the longest time. And I was asking him about it afterwards, and he mentioned that it's a long walk. You get some idle time when you have to go out for those outside resources, and he felt that against he was playing against Abbasid at that time, and said it's losing a lot of tempo. So there is something like that to consider. But yeah, the XP for Joan of Arc would be an easy pickup. We do see Imperial Academy coming up here for China. What do you think of the build for China so far for Puppy?
It's as standard as it gets. It's kind of that steady as she goes type build. I think we haven't gotten to that pivot point for 1puppypaw yet. One thing I'm noticing is that he's not moving on to stone yet, so this is not going to be a direct 2TC build. And that's kind of what you expect against a more aggressive civilization like Jeanne d'Arc. And when you look at the Chinese 2TC builds with Song Dynasty, there is basically 2 iterations, when you look at the old school builds at least. You either go Song Dynasty first and then second TC, or vice versa. The idea is that if you expect to be aggressed, Song Dynasty is better because you can make Chu Canoe to repel that.
Not to mention it also still increases your villager production speed as well, and some other benefits, like just giving you the Barbican giving you some map control as well.
It's the safer, but also it's the safer build, but it's also the one that slows your eco expansion down more.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one has a higher upside, but it's also something that leaves you a lot more exposed.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for what he's doing here so far, if that is his plan to go Song then and maybe a TC later, because Jeanne d'Arc doesn't have any massive eco upgrades in particular. Nothing that really comes to mind that really screams really, really strong eco early. A lot of the playstyle is based on those knights and the value you can create with them.
Exactly. Like, when you look at Jeanne d'Arc as a civilization, It's really not that different from the French.
It's really not, no.
Yeah, so when you look at it, unless you want to play vanilla French, you really need to find a way to leverage Jeanne's abilities. And this is why I think if he wants to go for the boars, this is the map to do so on. He's actually moving forward now.
She's not leveled up yet, though.
Yeah. I wonder if this is intentional. This could be a tower play.
Ooh, build a tower on something. Well, he's not going to get there in time. That Barbican's going to be up way before he can get there.
It's weird because she was building a landmark, and after that she built a house, and she wasn't leveled up still. So
that's interesting.
If this is not a misplay, then this is a conscious effort to retain her as a villager and get the age up.
Oh! Oh my goodness! What is that HP? That's got to be so close. You 4.
Oh my!
Ooh, he is playing with fire there.
That's insane. So I was about to say that maybe the idea was that you want to level her up with that tower being finished.
Yeah.
But that plan just falls flat.
The Chinese build speed is so fast that it's hard to compete with that.
You got some knights over there, and at the very least, 1puppypaw isn't able to access the food. But boy, Jeanne has been shut down, and we just discussed this a moment ago. When you play Jeanne d'Arc, you need to find a way to put her to use. Otherwise, you're basically playing vanilla French.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. China's still doing China things. Got the IOs popping out. He's got 2 so far. So Eco's gone, and he's been pushing the deer in to the Barbican. Going to get some extra food that way. I like that play. I love if you got the micro, you've got to spend it on the deer like that. That's just a great play to get the food nice and secure, because now that's never going to be able to be pressed.
Yeah, and GiveUA is no longer aggressing his opponent with the knights. Again, makes me wonder what exactly he wants to do. If you want to pick up that XP for Jeanne, that's what you're going to do with the knights. He's definitely not been aggressing his opponent, and I think that's something that also gives a lot of intel to 1puppypaw about what's going on.
Yeah, I'm sure 1puppypaw is probably just wondering what is going on. He's going to start going for Juganus, it looks like. He's going to put up the archery range now. Jeanne d'Arc hoping to inspire the villagers, still healing up from that Barbican fire. She's lucky to be alive. He went for the hunter. What do you think of that choice?
It's interesting, but so far, every single Jeanne d'Arc game I've cast today, it was the hunter choice.
I've been seeing it more and more because, I feel like when it was a newer addition to the game about a year ago, it was always the wrong choice, basically. Everyone always would go for basically the woman at arms. But now we're seeing the huntress a lot more, and she is going to go for that boar like you mentioned. Is she going to be able to take it down alone?
Yeah, that's one of the things. Usually what you do is you tank the damage with Jeanne, but you're dealing the damage to the boar with your knights, but that's not going to be the case over here for GiveUAnxiety. Now, one thing I like about Archer Jeanne is that single-shot, high-damage arrow that she can fire, and it's actually a pretty good tool to harass villagers with.
Yeah, it does a lot of damage. It's really satisfying, too. I love the noise it makes when it lands. Really fun. We do see 1puppypaw going up onto those deer, going to supervise. That's a huge amount of food income he's going to get with the supervision on that. That's a great pickup. The Barbican's in a wonderful spot. I actually love the position of this Barbican. Between the 2 wood lines, covering the gold, covering the deer. You can't get... that's like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 Barbican, in my opinion.
It's a really good positioning because it gives shelter to the food and gold villagers, but it's also something that gives you early warning. And again, it's not next to the gold, it's not behind it. It is in front. So your gold miners, they aren't really going to get pushed without the Barbican getting a couple of shots on the aggressors first.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that if you look at the wall on 1puppypaw's base, he's kind of walled up the north side up behind that wood line. So really, there's only one way to get through into the base without going all the way around, and he's cut it off with the Barbican of the Sun in a just excellent spot. And he's building some military. He's got some stuff. I think at this point, I'm kind of waiting to see when things get going. We're 8 minutes in, and not a lot's happened. Joan of Arc looking to get some more boar XP.
I don't know what the plan is with the knights, because the knights haven't been helping Jeanne to just expedite this level up process.
Yeah, they're like nowhere to be seen right now.
Yeah, they seem to be circling the base of the enemy here, but they aren't really finding much. And this could be dicey.
Oh, that was close. Joan of Arc likes to live life on the edge today, it seems, in GiveUA's hands, because goodness, that's twice she's gotten down
if
there.
1puppypaw moves out at any given moment with those Jugenu, things get very dicey for Jeanne.
Yeah. We do see some techs coming in for both players. We've got double broad axe coming in for GiveUAnxiety, and on 1puppypaw's side, he's got wheelbarrow and the first ranged piercing damage coming in.
But 1puppypaw is going castle here. Look, he's not been aggressed so much that he's just going to play into Castle here. He feels confident about it. And again, I don't exactly know what these knights are all about. Now, GiveUA might be waiting for a Castle Age here, trying to hit that timing.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
But once again, I think the problem is that he is making a big investment. He's got 10 knights, but he hasn't killed a single villager so far. He barely idled any.
Yeah, and the Astronomical Clock Tower coming up. Again, Nest of Bees isn't going to do a lot tonight, but it's also something you still have to respect as well. And the Castle Age timing, I mean, the ability to get crossbows out is going to be really big for puppypaw.
That's very true. Because the moment he gets crossbows out, especially with supervision to just buff up the production, these Lancers become near obsolete.
Yeah. And again, he's invested. He's got 12 of them coming out. He's gonna, and 2 more on the way. He's getting a huge investment in this. He's not super close to Castle. He could probably get there in about a minute if he wanted to. But he knows his opponent's Castle now, and his Knights are just kind of... I mean, they're probably getting a lot of scouting done, I guess.
Yeah, they've been roaming the map looking for something. Maybe random villagers out there. I don't really know, to be honest, but one thing is sure, puppypaw did not lose a single villager in this game. And that is pretty remarkable when you face 14 knights.
It is. It really is. In fact, the spears are almost able to take one down, putting it to half health. Crossbows now starting to pop out for puppypaw. The deer is about to run out. I'm curious where his next food source is. He's got a board that he looks like he's going to try and wall off and grab. He's already got the plans in the works to get there. If GiveUA can find that, instead he's going to go straight for the Barbican, though. He's going to get the surround on the Jugunu.
This is good timing.
Damage. This is good timing. Diving in, Barbican, Spear's not able to do much. Joan of Arc running away from them, but the Knights diving in, getting some more Vil kills. Got 2 now total. Not a ton, but taking on the Lancers of his own. And the numbers are there. This timing push could do some serious damage because puppypaw is not online ready for this yet. Yeah,
GiveUAnxiety was waiting for the range defense upgrade to come in, but now he's diving. And let's not forget, these are not just Feudal Age units. These are Feudal Age Plus. These are almost Castle Age style units for the French. And it's actually showing. He's idling out so much eco here from puppypaw. I don't know how long he can sustain this, though. But Puppy, oh my!
Right there, a couple drop right now. Now he's up to 4 total kills. Spears are going to catch up to that, though. He's got to get away from that because, again, Town Center Fire is not just, little pinpricks.
Ooh, Jeanne fell. That's definitely not the best case scenario here for GiveUA, but at the end of the day, he's idling so many villagers. Slowly, he's losing the Knights, though, without actually getting a lot of worker kills.
Yeah, 7 kills isn't bad, though, and the IO is a pretty good pickup right there. But he is losing all these Knights. Would you say this trade was worth it?
I don't think so.
I'm having a hard time disagreeing because I think you're right. It's a lot of idle time. Felt good in the moment, but I mean, with the hand cannon slits as the TC fire, that doesn't care if you have armor. Basically, they're just hitting right through them.
I think the problem is that there is no second layer to this for GiveUA.
Yeah.
He is still an age behind. He is going to face an enemy that can easily pop out a bunch of units just with the extra supervision. And at the same time, rebuilding this army that GiveUA just lost is going to take a lot of time and resources. So I feel like the problem is that, again, he had some damage done, but basically all he did was able to offset parts of that Song Dynasty influence.
That's exactly what I was going to mention. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to say, if you look at the Vil count, puppypaw's still ahead, and he killed 8 Vils. And that's the power of Song Dynasty really kicking in for as long as it's been going as well. And I don't even think he's had to put a second town center down. He's got that eco advantage still.
Yeah, and this is why, again, when you look at Jeanne d'Arc, this is the tricky thing. If you don't dictate the tempo of the game and you just let your opponent sit back at home, you're in a troublesome spot. Especially because GiveUA doesn't have a second TC or anything behind it. And this is something I touched on just before the game began. The trick here is that if the Chinese player can sit back and just slowly build up, it's difficult for Jeanne d'Arc to cut into it.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if this is going to be how the game goes, with puppypaw just playing very defensive and slowly being able to outmuscle his opponent in economy.
And he probably, I mean, China's a good sit for that, even when it's being aggressed with the defense they have. GiveUAnxiety didn't really press at all. He kind of just had him walking around not doing a whole lot. And so now letting puppypaw boom, I mean, China loves the late game. So I almost feel as if the longer this game goes, the less and less advantage GiveUA will have.
You know, one thing to highlight is that he has consecrated some of his production buildings, so he is getting a reasonable discount. But I don't know how long he can sustain Feudal Age versus Castle Age combat, especially with puppypaw now focusing very heavily on the crossbows.
Yeah, those crossbows are a big problem. We have 2 more in the queue, 5 already on the field. That said, the army for GiveUA has been replenished. He's got the knights back on the field, but again, puppypaw has that mixed comp. He's got some spears, he's got some crossbows, and he's got some lancers. It's hard to deal with all of those at once.
You know, GiveUA rebuilt this army a lot quicker than I anticipated him would.
And he's almost macroed to castle, too.
Yeah, if he goes to castle, Royal Institute here could make a lot of sense. If you get Royal Bloodlines for such an army, suddenly things could get very dicey for Puppy, because one thing to say here is that Puppy's eco is also kind of, it was hit pretty badly.
Yeah.
Badly enough to slow down the production of Lancers and Crossbows. So it's not like puppypaw has a devastating army right now.
And actually, this is a good pickup from him, too. He's getting XP. 2 Lancers going down. That's pretty big.
Almost tier 3.
Almost tier 3. He's got Royal Institute. And you know what? I think the idle time is what did it. I think GiveUA's idle time of puppypaw's economy, he only got 8 Vil kills, but half of his economy was completely idled. And he did wipe most of the military off at the same time. So even though he's been aged back, he's catching up. The numbers aren't drastic yet. And his knights are, if you look at the value right now, the army value, puppypaw's are actually behind of GiveUA as far as army value goes. Those knights are going to be castle age, and it's going to be like as if nothing happened.
And I think part of the reason why puppypaw slowed down a bit is because he wasn't he depleted his deer. He had to move to the board and he had the berries, but that was basically it. Whereas GiveUAnxiety is still on the hunt. Now, when GiveUAnxiety runs out, his momentum is also going to shrink. But until then, he does have this massive production available. Discount knights, decent food eco that allows you to mass them up, but he desperately needs veterans. He actually queues Royal Bloodlines first.
That's an interesting choice. I mean, he needs both desperately.
Yes, he needs that. Royal Bloodlines takes a long time to research, so I think that's the mindset.
That would make a lot of sense. We see he does have both of those in the queue. He doesn't want to take a fight yet. That's like the one biggest error you could ever make is don't take a fight when you're waiting for your units to turn castle age, because that's so much value lost if you lose those knights now.
Exactly. Like, he lives and dies with these knights. It's tricky, though, because puppypaw already walled himself in, so...
Yeah, at this point, you're playing to keep those knights alive, keep them on his toes, and then try and get them upgraded and then see where you're at.
And you're trying to get Jeanne to level 3 here as well.
Find some maybe small picks if you can get them.
But he needs to be out on the map because puppypaw has been active collecting relics. He's up to 2. GiveUA cannot just sit back and let his opponent collect all these relics.
He's not going to let him either. He's going to find on a wall coming in, but he backs off. I think he could have gotten that charge off. I think he could have gotten that charge off. I think he reacted a little too soon. I think he would have had it, because 4 knights charging, I think would have done it. But instead, they back off, and he's going to get walking around this wood line, but he's going to just find the reinforcements on the other side. Puppypaw doesn't want to take it without the full force of his military.
That Vololov was huge, because this way the monk gets back home. That monk was supposed to die, and now he's getting back, but guess what?
But the Vils have nowhere to run but 1 tower, and like you said, you got to have 2 towers at least. This isn't enough, and they're going to have to run all the way home again.
Does he have a gate? He doesn't have a gate!
Oh no!
That is insane!
Vils going down, 9, 10, 11. He gets 3 Vils out of that exchange, doesn't lose a single knight out of it. And that's big. Meanwhile, Joan of Arc getting chased down by Lancers on the other side, though. She's going to go down unless she's really lucky here in a second. And she does. Falls outside of her base just barely. These knights now running away from the spears. Some interesting engagements right now, but the military is starting to lean towards the favor of puppypaw. Look at the army value. He's got a lot more. Look at the numbers, 38 to 20. The villager lead. I feel like GiveUA needs some kind of edge to get in this game a bit better.
I think what GiveUA needs is a force of archers right now. Because here's the thing. These knights, if they ever dive the base of Puppy loses his whole eco. And as long as that's a danger, puppypaw needs to be careful. So the idea would be that you start massing archers as GiveUA, and if puppypaw decides to try and attack you, you stall it out with the archers and you dive with your knights.
And to your point, he hasn't made an archer range. He's instead made a siege workshop. So he's looking at maybe doing some kind of siege play.
Mangonels could work too.
We don't see anything. Yeah, he does have an archer in Joan of Arc, but that's not a full fleet. He does have the Mango in production, though, to deal with those crossbows. The tricky thing is, can you protect that, though, when your opponent's got lancers of their own?
Yeah, that's my concern. It makes me feel more like he wants to take one decisive fight. 22 knights with Royal Bloodlines, Chivalry, Candle, Settles, and Veterancy.
With Joan of Arc to heal at the crucial moment.
And, oh, look at the level on Jeanne. I think this could work. If you get like 2 mangoes, it could be nasty.
The champions, the men-at-arms, could come out and be a front line as well to protect stuff. This is going to be, if this comes down to 1 fight, it's going to be very exciting.
It's going to come down to 1 fight, though. Jeanne is level 3 now.
That's a lot of knights.
Blacksmith upgrades are severely lacking for GiveUA, so I think he's basically going to do a rest and regroup here. And then I think he's going to try to take this fight. I don't think he wants to take this late game.
No, not against China, and
yeah,
not
exactly.
against not with Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc can have a viable late game, but it doesn't feel good next to China when they can just. I mean, you don't want to have that Great Wall Gatehouse come out. You don't want to have to deal with those things. We see GiveUA very heavy on gold right now. Obviously, pumping out a bunch of knights, 5 more in the queue, and those are discounted as well. Most of them, given the consecration.
He decided to go melee defense instead of range defense number 2, so that's a little surprising.
Interesting choice. Maybe he's just concerned about those. He doesn't really have an answer to the Lancers, though.
GiveUA is struggling with food, though. And we talked about this just a couple of minutes ago. When he runs out of the boar and the deer, yep, he's just going to have food issues, and now he's forced to kind of go out here.
Oh, and their armies are just running right by the stealth
He's got
forest.
vision from Jeanne.
Oh, so he sees that, but 1puppypaw does not see him, so he knows he's out there. The stealth forest actually coming in clutch for GiveUA there. And the heals, they're all getting the chivalry, they're all getting healthy. And again, GiveUA did this to great effect in his last series with his English Knights, or just getting to heal, and he's just kind of letting them. When you get those units to heal, it's like you get them again. You're getting more value out of them. And we see 1puppypaw still has the Vil lead, still has the army lead as far as numbers go, but we're going to see just how good his army really is when GiveUA decides to throw down.
He is going so heavy on the siege, though. And here's the thing. 1puppypaw doesn't have a scout. It wasn't Jeanne who provided that vision for GiveUA. It was the scout. Yeah. Now he sees this because of the Barbican, but anything beyond that, it's not possible because he doesn't have a scout to work with.
Big mango hit. Now, we do have a Clock Tower Springled and Clock Tower Nest of Bees out on the field. But meanwhile, in the back line, Lancers coming in to try and raid GiveUA, but the Vils aren't home. They're all gone. They're outside. They've gone fishing. Big engagement. Mango shots, just clipping some spears. This is a big, big number of engagements. The Nest of Bees just kind of holding down the fort. Again, 1puppypaw is so close to seeing all those Vils, but he's not going to see it. Instead, he's going to try and snipe out the Mangonel.
Oh, he still sees the Lumberjacks, though.
He's going to see him, and yep, it's a bad day to be a woodworker.
And GiveUA is now facing 2 TCs, having to flee with the villagers.
Oh, they
Puppy didn't pay attention.
He's busy because mango shots happening in the main front. Big fire hitting the back line of crossbows. It goes down, but more are in the way coming in. I don't know that GiveUAnxiety has enough for this. Another shot of the mango. This is not going great for GiveUA. There's just too many spears and too many crossbows.
It is not. I mean, I love the idea here from GiveUA, but it's not working. He's pulling villagers,
What
but
are
it's
the
out.
villagers doing? Yeah, it's too late. It's gone.
It's out of desperation. I feel like the fact that he only has knights is just so problematic.
We got Lancers chasing down Joan of Arc coming right out of her base. He's got units that he just hasn't dealt with back home. Big mango shots, but great dodging from 1puppypaw. He's really done a good job of keeping that mass alive. Because, they can take one. The tricky thing is that GiveUA's only ever had one mango able to fire at once. If you get 2, they're dead. The one shot's not enough.
Even if you kill a ball of those crossbows, it's just so easy for Puppy to remass.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
And at the end of the day, as the villagers get pulled,
this is the desperation.
You don't have anything that kills the crossbows.
He's just diving with everything he's got. Villagers becoming the civil defense force, going for the Springolds. They're going to get some. But I just don't see this. This is a desperation. This is a YOLO thing. I think the game's over.
Yeah, 1puppypaw was on 2 TCs at the end, and yeah, GiveUA is just laughing about it.
A fun way to end, though. Fun way to end.
And he definitely looked a lot more alive than he was in the previous game. Like this one, you had some great moments for him. And the Knights, at times, seemed like they were going to work out. I just feel like we went into the same scenario that I've seen in so many AoE 4 games. Aggression is cool, but especially if it stalls out, economy wins. And this is actually something I had a conversation about with some of the other players. HRE being one of the more beloved civilizations. I think part of the reason why is because you cannot go wrong with strong economy. You can go wrong with strong aggression. Like we've seen in this game even.
Yeah, and I think a part of it too is he had those knights. That initial investment, you put all those into it, and then they just kind of idled his knights. That's the same as if you just idled your Vils, in my opinion. If you're not going to get value for it, it's worse. Because you're not can't spend it on anything else because the knights are already paid for. You can't go back and trade them in for something else.
Yeah, and just that 18, 19-minute mark at that time, Eco was even. But 1puppypaw actually went for a second town center behind that.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, it was a late second TC, but again, the whole concept is that if the aggression doesn't work out, the eco is going to grind you down, and when you have basically 40% more resources gathered than your opponent does, it's always difficult for your opponent to do anything.
Yeah, and you mentioned that going Song first is a safer option. That's exactly the right choice, I think, there. Because you look at the graph of the Vills, he was up a little bit. Enough that when he did lose the 8, it didn't matter too much because he still was secure. He still had food. The idle time kind of was difficult, and I think that's where it gave GiveUA a window to kind of do something. Unfortunately, then he ran out of food as well, and it stalled out, like you said. A good game, though. It was a fun one.
It was a good one. It was a really good one. I like that GiveUA didn't want to go into that booming game. I don't know the exact mindset about picking Jeanne d'Arc for this one.
Yeah,
because
I think
let's not forget,
so much better.
He pulled that Jeanne d'Arc at the very beginning of the game and it didn't work out. So maybe there was a build, there was I guess an idea, an approach that he came into this game with, and it fell flat. And from that point on, it was just a scramble to make anything happen.
Yeah, and that very well may be the case. And that might be why he had so many Knights idle as well. I think his game plan kind of got thrown out the window there. Well, the problem is like it's so frustrating to deal with Chinese build speed because they can build things like that, and it's hard to sometimes when you're like theory crafting, it can be hard to take that into account. I wonder if puppypaw will regret using Japanese here instead of on like maybe a water. Because if we go to a 4th map, I'm guessing we'll get a water map or at least a hybrid map after this. Possible.
Very possible.
4 Lakes. I don't think we've seen a 4 Lakes game today. They've been avoiding that one like a plague.
It's a shame because I'm a big 4 Lakes enjoyer.
It's a fun one to watch. It's a really fun one to watch. All right, and we dive in. Again, sorry if you don't like blue and purple as your colors if you're colorblind, but that's what we got again in the blue. Again, puppypaw as Japanese here on the southeast side. And we've got GiveUAnxiety in the purple in the northeast. I said southwest for puppypaw, northeast for GiveUAnxiety.
And indeed, you can see this little Arabia Mini, which is interesting in many ways. First of all, when you look at the overall size of the map relative to the woodlines, it actually makes your map a little bit more rollable. But generally speaking, protecting your food in particular is something that's challenging, even starting in early feudal.
Yeah. Yeah, we see the scouts gathering their sheep right now. I'm hoping that GiveUA is a little more content with his sheep scouting this map. I think he was a little hard-pressed in that first game. We see they're kind of, going back and forth a little bit right now. Nothing too crazy out of the build. I'm curious
Puppy's got no sheep on his scout.
I think he already dropped off, though.
Well, for his sake, I hope so.
Yeah, otherwise he'll be in a really tough spot. I'm curious. So, again, I feel like I heard so many people, Dabson in particular was a big fan of saying, let's go for multiple
he's doing triple scouts.
We see triple scouts coming out. Ooh. Now that's interesting. It feels like old school Roos.
It definitely feels that way, but this is the brand new patch where the whole bounty mechanic was redesigned.
We have our observer looking at professional scouts as an option. You mentioned it's super hard to just secure your food. Well, if that's the problem, you can just bring your food home. Just order takeout, bring it back.
It's a great deck.
It takes too long to research, though.
It's the gold price tag that I don't like, especially with the new Roos. Because with the old Roos, you got a bunch of gold in the form of the bounty, so you basically had what you needed. But for a civilization that is sitting at 23 gold, heading towards feudal age, squeezing out 275 for that deck, it's tough.
You have to mine it yourself. And we have one villager on the Kora storehouse, just interesting to point out. And then we've got Roos trying to harass some lumber. So I guess this is the mining camp for Japanese. The sheep are away? He's keeping them away so Puppy cannot kill them.
But if they're detached, Puppy can yoink them.
Oh, that was close. We almost had Grand Theft Mutton on our hands. That was a close call. GiveUA able to take care of it.
I'm starting to understand what GiveUA is going for here. This is just like harass that mining camp, try to burn it down, because you have the torching power and your opponent doesn't have any army.
Yeah. I mean, might as well, right? And then that's any kind of eco-inflict, damage you can inflict is better, right? I mean, make him pay the 50 wood for it again if you have to. Kremlin's going up here, and I like the Kremlin placement for GiveUA too. A bit aggressive with it, but covering the berries and the deer. We mentioned food being important on this map, and that covers a lot, as well as both wood lines.
It reminds me a lot to that Barbican placement from puppypaw in the previous game.
Yeah, exactly. And we do see the lumber camp going down here, or no, excuse me, mining camp going down. It's going to be nothing but a pile of lumber now. Yeah, I mean, that's free wood you just took away from your opponent, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's harassment potential, and it might not be big, but at the end of the day, villagers are being pulled to club down the What?
Nope, he's just going to run him right back home.
Yeah, they had their clubs out because they're going for the food back at home. I thought they were going to club the sheep here.
That was funny. The sheep are spared for another day, and they head back to base.
Now, Kura Storehouse gives you a bunch of free farms, which actually is very smart on this map if you think about it.
Yeah,
Save food. That's exactly what we want.
We have GiveUA on a lot of stone right now. He's got villagers going for, I believe, a second town center, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that's... Now,
Where,
we
though?
also see that there is enough stone for Puppy to get the Daimyo Manor, which means we will probably be seeing... I'm betting we're going to see the Bannerman for coming out of the I can't speak anymore. We're going to have the Bannerman coming out of the stable.
Yeah, now, if he goes for the Yuma Bannerman, it's like your proxy knight, but you can only have one of those. I'm actually curious how many knights GiveUA is going to go for, because one thing with the new rules is that your bounty trickles in progressively. And I feel like the most valuable time for this new bounty system is mid-late feudal.
Yeah.
This is where you're getting this consistent trickle of gold, and that's something that GiveUA can spend on eco upgrades or knights.
And, I mean, he can't deal with the Bannerman right now. He's going to have to send the scouts back home. This Bannerman, we saw earlier in today, we saw a matchup where a Bannerman was used to pretty good effect initially.
It's the same problem as game number 1. He wants a second DC, but he's going to have a unit that's out there to block it.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. He is getting his eco upgrades at least a little bit. He's got double broad axe, but it's on a great spot though, because the Kremlin can defend that pretty well.
I feel like it's a little redundant though. You already had a defensive structure there. You already had those deer secure. I don't think there was many better spots than that, but it still feels redundant.
Maybe I suppose his thought process would probably be, I want the extra eco regardless, and it's still there's not a better spot like you said. Yeah. It's an interesting play though, nonetheless.
Only place I could have imagined is the boar, but it would have been very, very risky.
Yeah. Bannerman looking for a spot to go. Luna Bannerman not going to be able to touch that. Just going to go around, look for some more damage. But unfortunately for him, it's going to be right to the TC. The home TC, that is. Some damage there, not going to find anyone. The Woodvilles are smartly moved over by the Kremlin.
Yeah, it really feels like GiveUA just kind of migrated his eco to this little pocket here.
And why not, right? I mean, there's a lot here, a lot of resources. Well, you talked about the important part being securing the resources you need, food. And in his case, he's going to need a lot of wood for what he wants to do.
Yeah, it looks like 1puppypaw wants to go to castle, though. He's banking up a lot of food, and he's getting the mining upgrade. I think that's your telling sign.
Yeah, and you know, he might as well. He can't really deal with a ton of knights in feudal age.
I would love it.
He's going to want to go fast castle. He's want to get those mounted samurai out, because those things, they're tough to deal with, even for Rus.
He wants the Yorishiro, and he wants to leverage the map control he's given with the relics as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he knows now that GiveUA is going to be slower to get up in age as well. He could go for a relic play with the Yorishiro. That's a big economic buff. Enough, I think, that could probably match a 2TC play for a while.
Yeah, that's the concern. This is something that I've always been highlighting when it comes to the 2TC builds. Semi-fast castles and fast castles, if you can secure the relics, it can hold very well against 2TC builds for a long time. Because the return of investment on the relics is a lot quicker than it is on the second TC.
Exactly. We see he is on some berries. I'm curious if he has Tatara or not. Or sorry, not Tatara, Takazaiku? Whichever the what is the
Takazaiku is
for the berries, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I just call it food upgrade.
Food upgrade. That's easier.
This way I don't look dumb when I forget the names.
Lots on gold. Yeah, he's definitely vying for castle.
And it's not just castle. It's going to be likely mounted samurai.
Yeah, and we got the floated gate coming up, and so they're already still on the gold. He's going to be getting the upgrades and the samurai.
I like the spearman though, because with the spearman you counter the Yuma Bannerman, and you also have that counter, the initial counter to the mounted samurai. Love that he's forcing out a tower here. That's a substantial investment from 1puppypaw to defend this area. Yeah,
I was going to mention that he didn't need one initially because he had the Yuma Bannerman, but those spearmans do force it out, and that's, a little more wood your opponent had to spend for it.
Yuma Bannerman is just heavily banked up over here. I feel like GiveUAnxiety is not in a terrible spot. I'm curious how things go for him beyond this point.
Yeah.
But I think the roles have swapped from the previous game. In the previous game, it was 1puppypaw, who's basically playing very defensive, booming up and slowly escalating his army and eco. Whereas now it feels like 1puppypaw is the one who needs to make things happen. Get the army out, pick up the relics, before GiveUA is able to just snowball the game with a substantially stronger eco.
Well, and he's got pretty good eco, and he's got a pretty good military presence right now. 17-3. Mounted samurai are not going to want to dive into even feudal age spears when there's 12 of them. And so he's got a real chance here to deny the relics from 1puppypaw.
Observers really want us to have Onamusha, but against Spearman, I don't think that's going to happen.
He clicked it for a second. He baited us for a second, and then immediately backed out and added some.
Yeah, that must have been a wrong hotkey.
Yumi Ashigaru. Now Uma Bannerman still trying to run away. It's really low health. Spearman trying to chase it down, but it's probably just a little too quick, even for the Archer to catch one last shot. Unless he gets lucky here. No, not quite. He's looking to see where the relics are, see how he can secure them. GiveUA is in a pretty good spot right now. Again, the eco numbers are slowly going to keep taking his favor. If puppypaw doesn't get any relics, how bad is that going to be for him?
It's going to be terrible. He's the Uma Bannerman is as good as dead, but most importantly, the gold mine is being pushed, and GiveUAnxiety is using something that is basically the biggest vulnerability of players playing fast castle. If you get your gold cut off, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, and we're seeing that right now. The first Vil goes down for puppypaw. He's going to back off, but the tower's gone, so there's not a lot he can do to hold that without units. He's trying to mass up Mounted Samurai and Yumi Ashigaru right now, but again, Yumi Ashigaru have the -1 compared to normal archers, so they're not going to be as effective as normal archers would be into those spears.
And if Puppy starts losing these farmhouses, he's also going to be supply blocked. I feel like this spear and the archer aggression is so good from GiveUAnxiety because it's not a gigantic investment. He's actually piling up resources for Castle Age, but at the same time, he's slowing down his opponent so much.
And he's getting eco upgrades. He's got Wheelbarrow, he's got Specialized Pick coming in. He's got those things he needs coming in. His eco's got a lead to it right now. His opponent hasn't gotten any of the relics that we see just yet. He's backing off from this fight right now. He doesn't really want to dive this many. He's going to get one of those Samurai, doesn't quite get there, and now we see he's also
now
moving
this
out
is
to the
aggro.
floor.
I don't know what he's thinking about here. Is this a misclick?
I hope not. We see a relic getting picked up.
Oh, GiveUA. Oh, no.
Don't throw
this
it.
This feels overly ambitious.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Puppy's got to go for it.
He's got to. There it is. You got to pull off this. GiveUA getting out in time.
Here come the Lancers, though.
Oh, no. And here come Mounted Samurai, though. Yeah, this was way too aggressive from GiveUA. He getting a little cheeky there.
What was the plan?
I'm surprised he didn't build a tower. I wonder if this was a misclick. We'll have to ask him after this.
No, he went for a boar.
If
he just stood there, I would have thought it's a misclick. I think he went for the... Maybe he didn't scout the deer on the side or something. It was so weird, but indeed, this is just going to be something that he needs to pay for.
Well, and he's not really close to Castle Age anymore, really.
Yeah.
He's been doubling down on units.
He's down to 300 food in general, so I mean, maybe he was just desperate for food.
Must have been. He must have gone through that deer way faster than he was expecting. We see the Yumi Ashigaru just harassing GiveUA's army now. There's just enough of them that he can't do anything about it. He doesn't have any knights. If he had just a couple of knights, he could deal with this.
Exactly. I think 1 or 2 knights would help a lot. Range defense would help a lot as well. puppypaw doesn't have... Actually, I don't know if that's the Japanese UI bug.
Maybe.
But, well, one thing is sure. In general, Rus is a good archer, Civ. So, like, mass archers, you can fight as long as your opponent isn't, like, vastly out-teching you.
We see 2 Mounted Samurai in the corner, almost going down that last shot. Man, they've got so much health, so much armor, not able to take care of him. That's a pretty good win from puppypaw right there, as he still is just harassing GiveUA's main army all the way back into the corner. Oh, but you know, those Mounted Samurais running past the tower, I don't think they're going to get too punished from that.
The Yumi, though, they were fast-moving, and they picked off a lot of those fleeing units. GiveUA is now outnumbered in the army department, and again, the problem is that he's facing Yumi, which is a unit that he could easily deal with using knights. But I think he just wanted to go to Castle Age here.
Yeah.
But he's gonna have to pay so hard for this. Idle out very heavily. And in general, I feel like his momentum is shrinking.
It definitely feels like puppypaw has held back enough, got a big enough of mass. I mean, he did exactly what you do when you go cast and you're trying to hold, right? You got to rally into your base, let him take down a house if he has to. Just make sure you have your force and then push out at the right time. He's doing a good job. We see, oh my goodness, Vil's going almost down. I think there's one. Oh, a couple, actually. So puppypaw getting some damage done with those Yumi Ashigaru in the back of GiveUA's base. Meanwhile, fight happening in front of puppypaw's base as well.
Now, one thing to highlight here is that Hydrate House is going to make your bounty system even better for the Rus in the new patch. And the second thing is that puppypaw's got a big army, but it's not a terrifying army. 30 Yumi, now they're buffed with a Bannerman as well. There are no pushovers. But it's not like you're facing 20 or so heavily armored units, right?
Yeah. I mean, one Mangonel is...
Yeah, one Mangonel, a couple of knights.
Yep.
and you could have a reasonable engagement for GiveUAnxiety.
Well, and puppypaw is going to be slowing down here for a second because he's going for another town center. So he's not going to be, he's going to actually, this is about all he's going to have for a moment. He's not producing a ton behind this.
Actually, there's more than this. Archers cannot torch these buildings, and one thing that is there for GiveUAnxiety is that a lot of these positions are very well fortified. I don't think you have siege engineering for puppypaw right now, so he doesn't have anything that takes out these towers or the town center.
We do see some ranged armor coming in for puppypaw. He got the first one. He didn't. So the UI is not busted on that at least. So he's getting the first one, getting the second one now. A lot of idle time though for GOA. This is gonna feel kind of bad, but they're trying to dive the heart of his base. There's a lot of stuff. A Mangonel popping out here in a minute. He doesn't want to go too close to that. He does have the militia. They are all around, picking off a lot of villagers.
It's too much damage. It's just too much damage.
I don't know how he deals with it. I don't know why he hasn't popped out the militia yet. And there's the Mango trying to save the day. Can it? Misses the first shot by a lot. Aims for the berry bush instead. Second shot, oh, he's going to have to repair it with the mounted samurai trying to hit it. Second shot is dodged by Puppy. Good micro there. Keeping the Mango alive with the villagers. Here come the gremlins now trying to defend. He's going to be able to push us back, but at what cost? He's now down a villager or two.
Puppy got what he wanted. He's up to 22 villager kills versus 1, and it's a 2TC versus 2TC setup. All the eco lead that GiveUAnxiety had was just gone in an instant, and again, archers cannot torch buildings, but they can just dive underneath and pick off so many vills.
Yeah, puppypaw is really happy this reset because he's also got 4 of the 3 relics now in hand.
Yeah, he's got 4 relics, he's got 2 TCs.
Plus the Odashido, he's ahead.
Yeah, and a well set up army as well. Good upgrades, a good lineup of units as well. And, as the observers are showing to us, this board was barely touched, but GiveUAnxiety doesn't have access to them.
Yeah, he really doesn't. These militia, obviously they aren't on a timer, so they're alive, slowly just ticking down health. He needs to use them, but he just can't. There's a lot of Yumis. Mango's coming out, fire, big hit, big hits. The core of that is gone. That's a big, big save for GUA to keep this alive, but those spears, very vulnerable still. It needs to get a couple more shots off. Another big shot, just barely missing. Kicking off another 1 or 2. Those Mangoes are saving GUA's game. That is his ticket to stay in this.
Exactly. He went from 1% chance all the way up to 5, which
not great, but
I mean, it's not great, but that's the first step that you need to have. I don't like he's playing full aggro with this though.
Yeah, no, he needs to find another economic way to get back in this.
It's tricky, right? Because you're facing so many relics, and Yorishiro are coming into play more and more.
Well, not that in the farms too. I mean, he's fully farm
transitioned exactly.
At this point,
like having all the farms, Yorishiro in key buildings, you're facing 4 relics, and Puppy is creeping forward with walls as well, so it's going to be progressive.
Mango shot hits dead center on the mass of Yumi Ashigaru. That's big. We go up to maybe 7%, you know?
Yeah.
Another big hit. So GUA taking some good fights now. He's keeping his siege alive, which is crucial. That's one of the things that failed for him last time going into China, is he didn't keep his siege safe. Now he's doing a much better job of that. He's walling in. Again, though, does he have the eco to manage this? It's 70 to 64. He doesn't have any of the relics. And there's a sacred site now in hand for puppypaw.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Japanese farmers are also buffed by the nearby town center. So sure enough, you do have those ruse bonuses as well for your lumberjacks, but when it's all said and done, puppypaw does have a somewhat considerable eco lead. When you look at the overall resource income per minute, it doesn't show perfectly.
Oh no, he doesn't see this! And a huge hit. Wasn't looking. That is a big pickup. You know, GOA's done some really good job with those Mangonels to get back in this a little bit.
They are the MVPs for sure here. He needs some walls though to deal with these Lancers because you know, he repelled the initial wave of archers with the Mangonels, but now puppypaw is making a hard switch.
Yeah, long term, that's going to be a problem.
He's getting mounted samurai going. He's getting foot samurai going as well.
Oh, they're going to run right into the deer. That's going to be dangerous. GUA needs to be really careful. Oh, I think he's going to see that. I don't know if Puppy's watching. He looks like he's not. I bet when he notices, he'll come back. Yeah, but now that gives time for the spears to get there in time. That's a big break for GUA to keep that eco alive. It's so necessary for him right now.
Now, it's quote-unquote only 3 relics here for puppypaw. You actually have at least one that GiveUAnxiety can secure. So again, there are ways back into this game. And I love the pivot to crossbows. He is anticipating more samurai and mounted samurai. And we've seen it in the previous game. Mounted samurai, or in general, heavy cavalry, it's a great unit. But mass crossbows are some of the most cost-effective ways of dealing with them. And in general, mass crossbows are a very good, like, unit type to just have as the backbone of your army.
I agree. Getting some crossbows and the spears to protect the siege behind it. It's a winning combination for Roos. And they can always add in men-at-arms, other things that they need later as well when it comes time for it. Again, a lot of towers. PuppyPaw is trying to stay on the offensive here. Feels like GiveUA is starting to stabilize. I mean, it's 82 vills to 71, so the eco lead feels a little bit bad. That said, GiveUA does get the bounty buff. He's at 827 bounty. So as he keeps gathering those deer, he's getting a little bit extra gold there as well.
I think GiveUA is looking good here. And one thing that helps him is that the map is small, so this slow-moving army of spearmen and mangonels, it's a lot more serviceable than it is on Dry Arabia. And when these Lancers do get cleaned up, at the end of the day, Samurai production is very slow for PuppyPaw. He only has 4-foot Samurai out there. He's facing 35 spearmen. So the Mounted Samurai, they really won't be usable in direct engagements.
No, and you see that's why he's switching into Onabogeisha right as we speak. They are Feudal Age right now. He hasn't upgraded them just yet. I think we see that in the Q form, though. Looking to do a tech switch that could catch GiveUA off guard, but Onabogeisha are susceptible to pretty good damage from Mangonels. If he doesn't lose them right here, though. This is tight. They're exposed. Oh, one goes down. It could have been more. That's not the worst case scenario for GiveUA.
Oh, man.
Spears trying to keep him alive. I say he's got to protect the siege. That's got to be #1 priority.
I feel like he's choosing a wrong angle here. He needs to go straight up in the middle. If he pivots to the side, his retreat is going to be cut off.
Yeah, and that'd be a very dangerous spot for him. And, you know, GiveUA really wants to win this game. You know, he's on a match point right now. Springwood getting sniped feels pretty bad. PuppyPaw doing a good job of picking off the reinforcements. He's going to do that angle you don't like anyways. He's going to commit to it.
Nice little raid here. If nothing else, it idles out a bunch of villagers. GiveUA's villager production has been all over, but this push, this second wave on the gold mine, now this is what could be devastating.
That's the kind of push he really needs. He needs something that's going to get him into this game. It's been pretty stabilized overall, but he needs to get an edge in this game. This push could be it. These are two big armies walking around. The siege, Samurai's coming in. Attack on multiple fronts. The Mangonel fire misses, unfortunately, for GiveUA, but he's got the spears on him to keep him safe.
Now
second shot. Ooh, lands pretty well. Got a couple there.
But it's the foot samurai now. That's the problem. You don't have enough crossbows, although they are nicely tucked away in a choke point, but I don't think this is enough for GiveUA to hold this off.
No, this fight's starting to go bad. Those Mangonels haven't done enough damage. So he's just not feeling good. Eventually, they're going to be exposed. He does have reinforcements coming in, but I think the front line has reached them. We're seeing one go down, another one down. That's a big loss for GiveUA. That's looking rough. 53 military to 12 is not where you want to be right now.
Yeah, I feel like reinforcements were just lagging behind, and maybe again choosing this side was a weird way of doing this.
Kind of a long way to go. Yeah.
It just takes too much time to get there. And you have the opponent with a very high-quality army.
I can't look. Another one down. The siege is so crucial because it's so expensive, takes so long, it's so slow.
Same thing with the crossbows, right? And at the end of the day, you cannot take fights in small groups because premium units dominate those. You want to have like these giga engagements where you just swarm your opponent with spears and crossbows. That's where you can dominate with the Rus, but it's going to be tough now that you're down to 5 army.
I mean, this game's over, right? 61 to 5. There's no coming back from it.
I didn't want to be the one that says that.
I'll say it. This game's on paper over. Unless PuppyPaw really throws something here, I just don't see how you get back from here.
Well, neither does GiveUA because he taps out of this one. Some memorable moments for him, but he's going to continue in the lower bracket because it is PuppyPaw taking this set here.
It was well played by both players. I know GiveUA really wanted to try and take a game here if he could, but well played by Puppy. You know, that was a back-and-forth game. That really could have gone in either direction, I think.
Yeah, I think GiveUA had some good moments, and I think the thing is that, especially this very last game, he definitely felt very alive, and if it wasn't for that one devastating Archer raid, I think he would have been in a really good spot. And then you look back at game number 1, he was a little unlucky with that opening. It's just like...
Yeah, that was rough for him.
It felt like that whole 2TC build just fell apart way too quickly, and it's always a bummer to see that because, you know, at the end of the day, you lose 3-0, but one of those games felt like they
kind
were...
of a wash.
Yeah. It felt like it was given away too easily.
Yeah, exactly. Because you know he's a better player than that. You know he could have done better, and it just felt like things kind of unraveled too quick before he could get his grip on it.
Exactly. It's that set kind of a thing where you know he could have done better, but things just didn't work out for him in that game. And at the end of the day, it's first to 3, and that is PuppyPaw in here.
And once again, another 3-0 series. I wonder if next series will be different, but Another close matchup there. Yeah, looking at the graph, this one was back and forth.
Yeah.
You can see in the military value lead, it was back and forth, but unfortunately at the end, devastating fight.
Well. Another 3-0. It feels like it's becoming a pattern over here, but here you're sitting for the second time today, second 3-0 victory. How do you feel after these 2 rounds here in the opening day?
I feel good, yeah. I feel pretty confident with my play. I think just getting adjusted, I feel better in the second series than I did in the first, I'd say.
So just going through the games real quickly. Opening Abbasids versus French, it's a very much explored matchup. It's also civilizations where you didn't have any gigantic balance changes with the recent patch. How did you feel about that whole game here? It really felt like ever since that second time center got placed, you could play that food denial game. What were the thoughts that went through your mind as you were playing that?
Yeah, so I got a good bit of sheep that game, and he had a very nice deer pack, and he decided not to put it on his TC there, the double deer pack, so I was pretty happy about that. I thought, okay, well, if he's not doing that, then it's probably pretty easy to play like food denial in that situation, so I did go with the 1 TC there. Yeah, I think if you're going to put the TC that conservatively, you can't go horseman, spearman just because it's too heavy on food.
One thing I wanted to ask about you is that in that game, GiveUA went with the culture wing.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, he didn't have those initial spearmen that you usually get from the military wing, and that's part of the reason why he wasn't able to place that TC to the optimal spot. So how do you feel about that? Specifically the culture wing pick.
Yeah, I think it was a mistake. Like, maybe he thought I would just like play like a 2TC macro game, but sometimes, you know, I just 1 TC all in when I think it's good, right? But yeah, the military wing would have helped a lot. Let him get that TC on that deer pack, or just push that deer in as well, like either or. It's very useful for getting that second TC in a good spot.
Well, going into game number 2, GiveUA was playing super heavily into knights. He had a very, very defensive strategy. I guess one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because this is one of the things that we had a bit of a puzzling conversation about, is how do you feel about Jeanne d'Arc in general on Tempe? To us, it was a bit of a surprise pick. Was it a surprise to you?
I was a bit surprised, yeah, but then I realized, like, 5 minutes into the game, this map actually has 4 boars, and I think that's why I chose it. And yeah, maybe it is a good pick there. If you get, it's very difficult to be very aggressive versus China, but if you're up against defensive, maybe you can force that Rover 2 zone up very quick with the full boars.
Well, so far the pattern has been very consistent. 3-0s all along. We have one more set to go. How do you feel about it? Are we going to see anything but a 3-0?
Jeez, I don't know. I have to expect Wham is going to 3 soldier. Yeah, I have to say it. Yeah, I mean, it could be 3-1, even 3-2. I don't know, but I have to cheer for Wham. So.
I see that as we're continuing this little brother war at this point. You took on GiveUA, now your brother takes on GiveUA's brother. Thank you so much for joining me over here. I'm sure you're going to be watching the final set from the sideline because we have one more crazy set left to go. It's once again the winner's bracket. In the second round, Wham is about to face off Soldier after a brief break.